Good afternoon, dear colleagues, dear participants. I'm happy to welcome all of you at our today's already traditional event dedicated to information data and clarification of the documents which have been approved today at our third official meeting of the Selection Commission for the High Qualifications Commission of Judges of Ukraine. Once again, I'm Yevhen Mezentsev, and I'm here together with my colleagues Robert, Serhiy, and Stephen. And we are here to provide you the answers to the questions that could be related to the restart of our commission. So first of all, let me mention that I'm happy to see all of you, see all the participants. Well, in the circumstances in which we are now, we are doing our best to become more organizationally flexible, to create all the necessary conditions for convenient and well-formatted work for convenient selection process, which in the tough conditions for Ukraine would be acceptable for all the candidates, for all the participants, and for all the people who will be willing to participate in this selection process. Besides that, I'd like to inform you that there were no amendments in the internal documents, in the rules of procedure and the application form that would be a matter of principle. So far, everything we have prepared as for now is the result of our activity aiming to improve and optimize access to this selection. On behalf of all the participants who are now participating in our education online session, would suggest asking questions that we could reconsider, that we could have a look at and try and answer during our second part, the Q&A session. And that's actually it. So just a small welcoming speech. I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that Stephen is Serhiy, and Serhiy
організаційних етапів нашого конкурсу. Наразі я і Роберт.
So me and Robert are going to discuss the issues that are dedicated to the application form. And let me mention right away that our commission would like to arrange its work in the following way. All the actions that were supposed to be conducted in line with our regulations in Kyiv, in person, and also in the premises of the High Qualifications Commission of Judges of Ukraine and High Council of Justice. But now we have arranged it in the way for all the activities to be held either online or in any other place in the territory of Ukraine or beyond Ukraine. Besides that, as far as other approaches in our work are concerned, I would like to mention that we would like to promote our candidates in obtaining information and developing the required package of documents, since we realize it quite well that because of the martial law, access to certain documents could be limited or even impossible in some cases. That's why, if, for example, for you, dear participants of the future competition, that will be a problem to get any documents from the state authorities, and suppose you know that you can get this document via the Selection Commission, you can make an announcement, make a statement to the Selection Commission in which you declare that it's necessary to get this document via the Selection Commission. Will be happy to help you with this in filling out the gaps which you have in your document packages from our own, using our own effort. Besides that, the Selection Commission, as for now, has passed the provision according to which we can change any timings, time frames for the selection with a special decision, and this can be done in order to make access to the selection procedure more efficient and to make participation in it more full-fledged, both for the candidates and for the people who would be willing to provide additional information on the candidates, for mass media, for state authorities, and for civil society organizations. So, with your permission, let me go over to some issues related to the overall arrangement of the application submission. We were quite diligent and detailed in terms of the procedure for application submission, but now I would say that not a lot of things have changed. And if you are willing to do this, you could look at the video of our second official meeting of the Selection Commission, which was made public on the 24th of January 2022. And besides that, Robert, me, Stephen, participated in several joint meetings, orientation and education meetings with mass media, with civil society organizations, and the videos were available on the YouTube page of our Selection Commission on the 22nd of February 2022. So if you want, you may go to those videos with about 5 or 6 hours of clarifications, and you may use this information. So let me just mention some things that are a matter of principle. First of all, once again, let me mention that all the documents you have to submit to the Selection Commission are submitted in hard copy, the paper copy, and the electronic copies, which have to be sent by email to the respective address that is going to be indicated in the announcement published in Голос України and also on the webpage of the High Council of Justice. Let me mention that all the documents submitted electronically should be in the PDF format, but for 2 documents, which is the motivation letter and the autobiography, the CV. Why? We have already explained the decision many times. That is done for the sake of convenient compilation of this data and generalization and aggregation of this data by the members of our Secretariat. As far as amendments are concerned, the first thing is that now, and this is what everybody knows, we don't disclose the declaration on the property of applicants for 2021 because the National Agency on Corruption Prevention has closed access to this sort of documents on their website. So far, all the applicants who have to submit such documents for last year, in fact, can do this. There is an opportunity like this, and you can enter the electronic room of the applicant. You can fill out your declaration, check it, and send it to the service of the National Agency on Corruption Prevention for storage purposes. Of course, this is not the declaration that is in public access, and therefore one of the problems we faced when deciding how we could collect the applications was how could a person submit a copy of this declaration, because that used not to be a problem, since the declaration was to be printed out from the website of the national agency and it was submitted for placement within the package of other documents on the website of the High Council of Justice. But now this is a problem, since besides the national agency and the very applicant, nobody has got access to this declaration. That's why, since the applicant has got a physical opportunity to print out this declaration, in particular he can enter his electronic room or electronic cabinet and see all the declaration data, including the personal data which is not subject to disclosure and publicizing. This is, well, numbers of real estate facilities, tax codes, car codes, something like that. So quite a lot of data. So in order to avoid any accidental or purposeful disclosure of this personal data, we suggest, or we have already actually introduced amendment to paragraph 5 of the annexes to the application form, and it used to sound as a copy of the declaration on the property of the candidate for the year preceding the year when the competition, the selection is announced. But now we are going to ask our candidates just to make a statement about the fact and the date of submission of such declaration for 2021 to the website of the National Agency on Corruption Prevention. This is not a very simple mechanism, but it was developed in the way to simplify both your work and our work. And the mechanism is like this. The applicant has to submit the declaration for 2021 and to register it on the website of the National Agency on Corruption Prevention. And after that, together with a package of documents for participation in the selection procedure, he gives a statement in an arbitrary form saying that me, let's say, Petranko Serhiy, have submitted the declaration to the National Agency for about the property for 2021, and that happened on the 18th of July at 4 o'clock, or the hour could be skipped. For us, only the date is important and confirmation of the fact that the declaration was submitted. On getting this package together with the statement, I mean the Selection Commission, address the National Agency on Corruption Prevention with our own request, asking to provide a copy of this declaration from its survey data, but for the personal data which is not subject of disclosure. After that, we get from the national agency the copy of the declaration and we place it on the website of the High Council of Justice together with other documents. Well, this is maybe a little bit longer process, but it helps us avoid disclosure of personal data, as I've already mentioned, and besides that, I would say that it is rather acceptable in the current conditions of martial law. That's why please pay attention to the changes which have been made in paragraph 5 of annexes to the application form. Besides that, there may be some problems with criminal record. For some period of time after the war started, it was not issued. And now this criminal record certificate lies with the responsibility with some other authorities. And besides that, it may be problematic that this criminal record certificate is issued not immediately, but about 30 days can last about 30 days. And it was even announced by the state bodies that the criminal record certificate can be obtained on the basis of the DIA platform, but currently this function is just being tested in DIA and you cannot use it so far. Well, at least yesterday I tried to do this and I failed. So I think that our candidates will also face some problems with getting it via DIA platform. So we have decided to adjust paragraph 13 of annexes to the application form, and it used to sound as provision of the criminal record certificate, but now we will be asking only for a statement saying that the candidate has no criminal record, has got no unexpunged or expired conviction, and he is not under investigation now, and that he entitles the selection commission to independently clarify this information. After we get such a statement or such an announcement, and by the way, we even have approved the form of this statement, which is a small one and consists of some 5 or 6 lines. Have a look at it. It will be made public in the nearest future. So, and if this application, if this statement is filled out, the selection commission will be entitled to get the data about criminal record from the body of the interior or any other competent state authority. In this way, we have also tried to simplify the work all the candidates have to do while preparing the packages of documents for participation in the selection process. Please pay attention to the fact that according to the law signed by the President at the beginning of the war, now a wide number of due diligence inspections and financial inspections are not conducted now, and that refers to special inspections as well. And the state authorities that are supposed to conduct such inspections stay in contact with us. We have got some agreement with them that they will still do monitoring of our candidates in terms of correspondence of their previous activity to the requirements of the law is concerned. And, well, whether it will be called monitoring or in any other way, but this is not exactly the special inspection. And here is the last thing, but not the least. And this is the fact that the procedure of getting a certificate on the level of knowledge of command of the official language, it's still not easy to get it, but you know that according to Articles 9 and 10 of the law, if I'm not mistaken, concerning the command of the state language, all the members of the High Qualifications Commission of Judges of Ukraine are to have a perfect command of the Ukrainian language. So this should be confirmed by the respective certificate. And at our previous sessions, we stressed that submission of the certificate about that your command of the Ukrainian language is possible, but at the stage of submission of those documents, this is not obligatory. You will have a certain period of time within which you can get ready, you can pass the exam and provide this certificate to us. And this should preferably be done at least 5 days prior to the interview with this candidate. Since the results of such exam become known to the candidate right after he takes the exam, but still the certificate is issued within about 15 days, if I'm not mistaken, so I would advise our prospective candidates not to make any delays with this and to hurry up. So I guess that if I have forgotten to mention something, my colleagues will add this information, and we will look through the comments and the questions our viewers will give, and we'll try to give answers to them. Now let me give the floor to Stephen Markman for him to tell how we have adjusted our documents. Justice Markman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Judge. There are 2 parts of our documents I'd like to discuss with you briefly, and of course we would be glad to answer your questions. One is the methodology. The methodology adopted by the Commission sets forth the broad standards and the criteria by which those who are seeking appointment as judge selectors of Ukraine are themselves to be judged. Most importantly, it seeks to identify the indicators for assessing both the personal integrity and the professional competency of candidates for the High Qualifications Commission. These are indicators that are relevant, we believe, in our selection process of the selectors of judges, just as we believe that most of these considerations are equally pertinent to the judge selectors in selecting the judges to serve in Ukraine. There are two concepts I would like to speak with you very briefly about. One is the objective observer. This is defined in the methodology by emphasizing that we're talking about what a reasonable third party would consider to be true in assessing the conduct of the candidate under consideration. It's an objective standard, and it's an objective standard of a third-party observer. The other concept that I think is extremely important in understanding the methodology is that of where the burden of proof lies. The burden of proof concerning any kind of evidence as to the qualifications of a candidate always rest upon a burden of proof being placed upon the candidate himself or herself. If there is any uncertainty or doubt concerning the satisfaction by a candidate of a relevant indicator, the obligation of dispelling or ridding the process of that uncertainty always lies upon the applicant and not upon the commission to demonstrate the accuracy of that uncertainty or doubt. Very briefly, the indicators for personal integrity are defined in Section 2 of the methodology as independence, honesty, impartiality, incorruptibility, diligence, propriety, conduct that is above reproach, and one's management of his or her personal financial affairs. These are the indicators that in total, when all are considered, communicates to the Commission whether a candidate has or has not satisfied the very high standards for personal integrity that are required under this important competition. The second important consideration, of course, as I've indicated, is professional competency. And these indicators are described in Section 3, and they concern knowledge specifically of the judicial system, analytical skills, the ability to work hard and persistently, the ability to write in a clear manner, the ability to speak in a clear manner, and one's ability to work collegially and to interact with his or her colleagues. Now, that's a summation of what the methodology is, but I want to emphasize that there are no changes in that methodology. The methodology that some of you may have seen when our commission first initiated this process in January remained the methodology. We have not altered the methodology because we think we have identified the proper standards, and we are confident that in trying to assess the people who should be serving on this very high commission of the state of Ukraine, people who satisfy the indicators for personal integrity that we have identified and the indicators for professional competency that we have identified, will serve with distinction on that body and will make the people of Ukraine very proud about the system by which we are selecting judges of Ukraine. The second document I'd like to briefly discuss would be the rules of procedure. There have been some changes that have been made to the rules of procedure. We have recently indicated and just this morning adopted some emergency and transitional rules to reflect the present needs and circumstances of the Commission. Mostly these changes are designed to ensure that in an emergency circumstance or in an unusual circumstance, we can address what might otherwise have been obstacles under our rules and procedures to successfully pursuing the selection process. For example, our previous rules have made very clear that we are required to conduct our official meetings in Ukraine, and of course that is understandable. But it is now, I think, also understandable to most people that we can't always do that. And this very official meeting that we had earlier today was undertaken, as is this educational session, in Warsaw, which of course is just outside the boundaries of Ukraine. And that has been made a legitimate thing by the emergency circumstances and rules that we've adopted. In short, these rules are designed to enable us to have the necessary flexibility and discretion to do whatever is necessary to restart the work of this commission and its competitive selection process. We have relaxed things like our deadlines and timetables, where we have to meet, what can only be decided in official meetings of the commission, once again to ensure that we are not paralyzed in our procedures and can continue to pursue them as effectively as possible. We have done two other things in our emergency rules I briefly want to emphasize. One, of course, is to indicate that the circumstances that are currently in Ukraine are the kind of emergency circumstances that we believe justify the exceptions and the special rules that we have now announced. And secondly, I emphasize that those who have submitted applications in January and February to participate in the competitive selection will be considered to remain candidates in that process. There may be some areas, as Judge Bezentsov has indicated, that there may be some alterations, some new obligations, some new supplementary information that's required, but you are part of the competition if you filed for the competition in January or February. And of course, we very much thank you for your participation and involvement in our competition. But even more important, and I indicated this also this morning at our official session, what is most important is not how we have changed our rules, because they've not been changed substantially for the most part. It's what has not been changed that's most important. As I've indicated, the methodology has been kept intact, and these lie at the very heart of our decision-making process. Secondly, the standards of fairness and due process, the policies of openness and transparency, and the premises that we will not attempt to surprise any candidate or embarrass any candidate have all been preserved as part of what defines our process. And third, we understand that we will not have saints who participate in this process, and we will do our best to place your histories and your perhaps stumbles in the course of those histories in a fair-minded manner, in the proper context, for none of us are without our flaws. But as I've indicated a few moments ago, it will always be your burden and obligation as a candidate to demonstrate beyond a reasonable doubt that you do meet the high standards of the competitive selection process, and that you will enhance and elevate the judiciary of Ukraine by your membership on the High Qualifications Commission, as we believe you will. The rules of procedure are important to understand, but I have to say they are not as important as the rules of selection, because the rules of procedure mainly govern the internal processes of this selection commission. They have to do with things such as the responsibilities of the chairman and the deputy chairman, how we collect personal data about applicants, the ethical obligations of the 6 members of the commission, which are obviously important, We have to try to meet the highest ethical standards if we are going to expect applicants for these important positions to also meet those same standards. And we talk about a lot of the details of our commission meeting, what constitutes a quorum, what constitutes a majority of membership, how the meetings have to be open meetings and broadcast to the people of Ukraine, and other matters involving the voting rules and possible conflicts of interest that sometimes may arise to members of the commission. So that explains, I hope, once again, the general purposes and scope of our rules of procedure and our methodology. Let me please conclude, if I can, to say only how important it is that you consider participating in this process. We need the best of the best. We believe that the standards of the judiciary in Ukraine can be elevated to the highest world standards if we get Ukrainian citizens participating in an active manner in this competition. It's critical to the success of the commission that you apply, but it's even more important and more critical to the success of the rule of law in the judiciary in Ukraine that the best among the country considers seriously applying for a position on the High Qualifications Commission. We promise you, as I've indicated a few minutes ago, that your application will be treated with courtesy, with fairness, and that we will do everything we can to ensure that you, at the end of the process, whatever your position in the competition, you will have felt that you were given fair treatment in that process. That's our commitment to you. Let me now introduce my colleague on the commission who will talk to you about the selection regulations, which are very, very defining of the process that you will go through if you decide to apply. Judge Sergey Verlanov.
Дякую, Стівен. Так,
Thank you, Stephen. Let me add to what Stephen has said. Because of the martial law in Ukraine, today at our meeting we decided that we amend the selection procedure for the High Qualifications Commission of Judges of Ukraine, and the amendments will refer to the fact that the interviews with the candidates for the High Qualifications Commission, as well the interviews with any other person who could probably provide important information about the candidate, will be personal or online, and these will be broadcast open interviews. For the sake of ensuring efficient work of our commission, we have decided that in the course of selection, we won't have the check of the level of intelligence and general skills of the candidate the way it was supposed to happen under Article 7 of the selection procedure before. Besides that, we have made a conclusion that it's also necessary to, as far as the documents to be submitted by the document and that are going to be considered by the selection commission. So it's necessary that these documents are assessed with due account of their accessibility of information due to martial law in Ukraine. And we have also reached the conclusion that if the selection commission has any valid reason for that, it can change the deadlines for indicated in this regulation, in this procedure, to simplify the procedure and to provide the opportunity to different candidates and other people to be involved in the selection. Also, let me mention that we are highly interested in making the participants, the candidates, are acquainted with the documents. So the documents will be publicized both in Голос of Ukraine, which is the announced on the restart of the selection procedure, and the deadline set from the 15th of July to the 22nd of August. And we are urging you to submit your documents, because in the course of the selection, we really want to find the best of the best candidates for the High Qualifications Commission of Judges of Ukraine. This needs to be done for us to really choose the best candidates and to provide for the process of judicial reform. And this is also necessary for us to meet one of the conditions that is the precondition for Ukraine's accession to the EU. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues, for your profound answers.
Well, not so much. The application form has not been changed. It contains many or quite some questions that need to be answered by you, and where you need to provide quite substantial information about yourself. And we would appreciate if you would try to fulfill this task completely and diligently. Thank you.
Добре, дякую. Ну, тоді, з вашого дозволу, колеги.
Thank you. So, with your permission, dear colleagues, let me go over to looking through the questions we have currently got. Well, at least I've got 3 questions here from the chat. These are the questions on the document. So the first question is, are the documents submitted before the 24th of February 2022 valid? Yes, and once again, yes. We have actually given the answer to this question. We did this at the official morning meeting. Pay attention to the fact that the packages of documents that were submitted before the 4th of March 2022 or before the 24th of February are valid. They have been accepted by the Commission. They will be studied in a very detailed way. And of course, as far as I remember, there are some drawbacks in some packages of those documents because they are incomplete. But I think that via the Secretariat we will inform our candidates that their packages of documents are not complete, and we will ask them to add the necessary documents. Besides that, the candidates still can add some other documents at their own discretion if they want to. Besides that, suppose your criminal record certificate issued before the 21st of February 2024 is currently, well, it has expired, because it seems to me that it's like only half a year. So it's not a problem. You don't have to resubmit a new criminal record certificate, because we can check the information, the facts concerning your criminal record via the bodies of the Interior. So we will not overburden you with the task of resubmitting this document. Question number 2, coming from Lesa Mikhailenko, if I'm not mistaken. Where do we physically apply? Well, physically you have to submit the documents to the website of the High Council of Justice. If you don't have a chance to submit your package of documents to the email of the High Council of Justice, please send it by post to the address which will be mentioned in the announcement that we're going to publicize in Голос України in the nearest days. So this is address Studentska 12A, Kyiv. This is the official address of the High Council of Justice. So, dear colleagues, please, you may send documents there. And here is the third question, coming from Mr. Koversnev. Sorry if I'm wrong with the emphasis, with the stress. What is the command of the official language the candidate should have? Is it C1 or is it enough to have B2? Well, under Article 9 of the law of Ukraine on ensuring functioning of Ukrainian language as the official language, the candidate for the member of the High Qualifications Commission of Judges of Ukraine has to confirm that the level of command of the Ukrainian language It corresponds to what is mentioned in the certificate of the national agency, and the requirements are set by the national agency, the same agency that actually conducts the exams. So, on looking through the internal documents, you will see what the criteria are. But I'm sure that for the high-level official, you have to have a fluent command of the Ukrainian language. This is C1 and C2 and not B2. Because B2, this is just an intermediate level of language command. Well, thank you. That's actually it. I don't see any other questions coming. Maybe colleagues would like to add anything else?
Maybe some additional comments? No?
No additional comments. Fine. So I was happy to see all of you, dear participants and dear commissioners. Thanks a lot for today's participation. I hope that your personal participation in the selection procedure will be a success. Thanks again.